Hello, listeners, and welcome to Area of Expertise, a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition podcast where we cover all things D&D. From the massive worlds you build to the heroes you play, AoE has you covered. Happy listening. Hello, welcome to Area of Expertise. I'm Wyatt.
And I'm Devin.
Today, it is Monster Day. Get your Halloween vibes back. I realized that was, like 2 weeks ago when this one goes up?
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, we're actually recording this on the 2nd, so it's
A couple days after.
Yeah, a couple days, which the map-making episode just went up today, actually, the day that we're recording this, the map-making episode went up. But I made a goof in my planning. I'd planned on doing the monster episode for Halloween.
Yeah.
But, you know, schedules and whatnot, it's
gets busy.
Anyway, so before we get to talking about our main topic, though, let's go through what we always go through. Devin, what did you do with D&D this week?
This week we had our usual session on Monday, where I play a kobold rogue named Cogmard. He's this incorrigible little bastard that just does whatever the first thing that comes to his mind, but he always does it pretty well. I'm trying to see if I can remember what happened. We've been trying to look. We've gotten this key that opens up. We're playing Dragon Heist, so I guess I don't want to spoil too much. But we're on the lookout for this specific key that we're supposed to get, and we're having a tough time trying to track them down. So. We've been going about it pretty haphazardly.
Getting into a little bit of hijinks along the way. Oh,
absolutely hijinks. His high point this week was that he found a holy symbol to an evil god.
Oh, no.
And the rest of the party was not on board with it. And they're like, we need to melt that down. And it was made of pure gold. Like, we're not on board with that. So, like, they could be using that for nefarious purposes from afar. And I'm like, but I want it. So they made me melt it down. And I melted it down, and I used all the other money that I had to get, like, a plaster cast of my head, and made a jeweler make a cast of my head out of the same gold. So now my kobold has a gold statue, a golden bust of his head and shoulders.
Just walking around with that in his pocket.
No, he put it on the mantle of the tavern we own.
So I never played Dragon Heist, so I'm not quite sure where that would fall into the whole story.
Well, we're playing it pretty unconventionally. If you would ask our DM, he's we've gone off story for about 70 to 75% of the module. It's rough, but it's fun.
That'll happen.
Yeah. What have you done this week?
This week, I mentioned this a little bit in the map making episode, but I started a entirely new homebrew campaign with a different group of people.
Did you cancel your last one?
No, it's still going.
Okay.
I'm currently in the middle of 2 homebrew campaigns.
Right on. DMing 2 games at once. That's rough.
This one though is pretty easy. It's entirely based within a giant metropolis.
That's cool. Yeah.
So
that's kind of how Dragon Heist is. Yeah. It's all in the biggest city in the.
Is it all Waterdeep?
It's all Waterdeep. You don't leave Waterdeep.
Yeah, this is the town that the city that I've made them is very Waterdeep-esque, in that it's like the focal center of the plane. Like, everyone knows where the city is.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what happens in it. But it's very inspired by kind of Godfather. It's very...
Oh, yeah, lots of, like, kind of Gotham-esque, where it's like the crime is running rampant or something.
But it's a very... the story starts out as this, like, kind of pristine... kind of like utopian city. Like, everything is fine. It's this big festival, the 2000th year of the founding.
Look behind the curtain and see the bad.
And the very first session, within like a half hour of playing, each sector of this city has a senator. And the senator of this section that the players are in, they witness the assassination. And it's by this group of... I don't want to spoil too much in case they're listening.
Yeah, but, no spoilers.
But they release these like kind of shadow men, where they're very they're basically just silhouettes of people, and they encounter them all throughout the city, and it's been a real treat for them so far. I think they're having a good time with it.
Yeah, Metropolis areas are usually really fun for most groups. There's just everybody can kind of get a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very like gangs and territory kind of setting. So I've been having a lot of fun world building it.
Yeah, sounds great.
So, getting into the meat of this episode, like I mentioned before, we're going to be talking about monsters, and so when you're picking out monsters, be it for an encounter or maybe for just your setting in general, you tend to want to play either the monsters to your setting or the setting to your monsters. What do you have to say to that, Devin?
I usually build my I build my plot around the monsters that I enjoy, the ones that I like using. So I guess to answer it straightforward, I pick my monsters first, and then I build the story and the setting around that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'll usually find a monster in the monster manual and think it's really cool and read up on its backstory, and it's like, hey, I could put an entire campaign around this.
Yeah, you usually. Well, for me, I pick like a type. Like for the current campaign, I picked undead because I've gone on record many times. I like the darker and the more macabre aspects of D&D, so undead are usually a pretty big go-to for me. If you're a cleric in my campaign, you're probably gonna have a good time. Yeah, I picked undead in general, but what I've noticed a lot is if somebody picks this method, they'll pick a monster that they really like, a powerful monster that they really like, and like that's kind of like the big bad, and then they pick up the other monsters that would filter down that you can kind of make thematic sense until the party gets to your big bad.
So do you usually build in reverse then? Do you usually pick like, okay, I want lots of zombies in this campaign, so you pick your zombies, and it's like, okay, what do I put in next? Maybe like a shambling mound or something.
Shambling mounds, those are elementals. But like every monster will have its place. Like you don't want to just bog down an entire campaign with the same type of monster. So like different types of monsters are always good to throw in, but like usually for me, if it's involving the main plot, you're gonna find undead. Like for this campaign specifically, I picked the type and then I picked the big bad off the type. Like it's not gonna be hard to figure out, and I'm sure you already have. The big bad is gonna be undead. Like I can't hide that.
So when you say the words big bad and undead, my mind always goes to lich. You're
not far off. It's close, is what I'll say.
Yeah, and that's just
because liches are so cool.
That's me just thinking like, it's pretty common, especially at super high levels in campaigns. You stop facing monsters that are just beat you up, and you instead start facing a lot more high magic users. And when I think of like undead, it's usually like, yeah, the low levels, the zombies will beat you up.
Well, like their intelligence will start to undead specifically, like their mental faculties scale as they get tougher. Like not just their size and strength. Like the zombie is probably, well, it's one of the weakest. I think the weakest is actually a crawling claw, which is just an animated hand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they're super dopey, and I think I've ever used one, but
isn't their challenge rating like 0?
I think it is. I think the crawling claw's CR is 0. So like nobody should have problems killing this thing.
Yeah, but you can put like 20 of them in a room.
I guess that'd be creepy.
That'd
be pretty good, I guess.
Have your players like explore a cellar, and they break open a vase, and it's just a whole bunch of tiny hands.
Yeah, or going through like a pyramid, like a mummy-esque theme where like the end game is a mummy, but like the first room you bust open a pot to find treasure, and just crawling claws come out like ants.
Grabby boys.
The grabby boys. But yeah, you start off with like the basic zombie, which is one of the easiest monsters to fight that provides a challenge. And their intelligence I think is like 6, maybe less.
Yeah.
And then you get to a lich, which is basically just an undead wizard. Their intelligence is 20, probably higher. I can't remember off the top of my head.
And they're entirely sentient.
Entirely, yeah. You have to be sentient in order to do the lore appropriate ritual for a lich.
Yeah, and a lot of zombies when you're starting out are very very just like hunger driven, very
Yeah.
like basic Night of the Living Dead kind of zombies.
Yeah, that's actually a point of contention for me. I despise the thematic element of like the rabid virus zombie, like the biological zombie. I'm much more on the side of like the awoken by magic fantasy zombie that's out to do. It's not driven by hunger, it's driven by whatever its master tells it to do.
Okay.
So like I've never been a huge fan of like The Walking Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Left 4 Dead. Of course, Dead's always in those titles. I'm not on board. I can't say I'm not on board. I'm not as much of a fan of the biological rabid zombie as much as I am the compelled to act.
Kind of thinking off that, this kind of goes a little bit away from our topic, but how do you feel about kind of like the Last of Us zombies, like the fungus infected, like drive for the hive?
Those can be pretty good. I think they actually, I can't remember if it was a homebrew or if it was an actual Unearthed Arcana supplement. They made a druid, I think, that acts kind of that way. Like it's like the pollen druid. That
no, that's a real thing.
Is it a real thing?
Yeah, it's a circle of spores.
Yeah, something like that. And like you could make a really cool like druidic necromancer from that.
Yeah, I've never seen it actually like put together before.
No, I never have either.
It sounds really cool.
It sounded neat. Yeah, I can get on board with that.
I played through The Last of Us recently, so I have that sort of
'Cause I've never played it.
like flowering fungus kind of zombie on the head.
Kind of like that bug that like kills and takes over its victim and just like zombifies them.
Yeah, it just kind of grows out of it. I don't know. It's the stuff that derives from nature. That scares me.
Yeah,
Nature is scary.
Nature is scary, but I'm also not a huge fan of druids. Just putting that out there. So
yeah, druid's kind of a divisive kind of type, you know.
Yeah.
It falls in the same camp of like, you play like the normal hit stuff fighter, or you play like an Eldritch Knight. You know? It's one or the other. Anyway,
Anyways, yeah, that's neither here nor there.
All right, so the next thing I want to kind of talk about is your go-to for small monsters. So we kind of talked about it a little bit with the claws and the zombies, but when you're putting together a sort of like a dungeon, let's say. Harken back to the dungeon crawling episode.
I'm populating a dungeon.
Yeah. Just picking with your undead theme. Let's say your dungeon, you have a few zombies in a room.
Yep.
But you want to change it up. What's your go-to?
I actually love skeletons more than zombies because skeletons are so much more versatile. Zombies are kind of the mindless, go at you, whack you, and not much else. Like their undead fortitude is great, but for survivability. But I love having a skeleton in there because by the monster manual, skeletons can use weapons and armor innately. So you could suit up a room with like 2 or 3 zombies and 2 skeletons in the back to give some kind of like intrigue. The skeletons are in the back, short bow, popping people with arrows, while the zombies are up front, just going at them.
So they just bludgeon with their hands, right?
Yeah, their move is called slam, but zombies can also use weapons, but like
come on and slam.
It makes a point in the monster manual to say that a zombie can use a weapon, but if it drops it, it does not have the mind to pick it up. So if you disarm the zombie, it will forget that it had a weapon.
Well, that's gone.
Yeah, it's like, oh well, which I thought was kind of funny.
That's great. I feel like you can put a lot of personality into that if you want to.
Yeah, however much personality you want to put into an undead, like it's possible. It's not like me being sarcastic, but you can.
Yeah, which I've never.
Skeletons can be completely sentient. I don't think their intelligence is very high, but
which I've never used a skeleton in my campaigns.
Oh.
Do they reassemble? Is that like a
No, you can.
So that's a very common like trope kind
of
thing.
If you're a DM, you can make skeletons reassemble. I actually put together a small dungeon one time based on Dark Souls, where there was like a necromancer light. It was like a 5th level dungeon. There was a wizard at the end of the dungeon, and throughout the whole dungeon, it was just skeletons. I'm not sure if you remember, but you were a part of this.
I think I remember going after the necromancer.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to find his like phylacteries, I guess.
Yeah, it was something like, I can't remember the exact goal. I just remember because I was pretty proud of it and implementing it. Any skeleton that you kill in the dungeon comes up, reassembles and comes back after you. I think like a minute later. Like it takes a minute for the skeleton to reassemble until you kill the necromancer, and then they're all dead.
Okay, so like 10 rounds go by. And
yeah, like you could kill a room out of skeletons, and then it's like, oh man, we killed him, cool, and they'll wait for a minute, and then you're in the next room fighting skeletons, and then those ones you just killed just come in from behind you, and
you're like, oh my.
Yeah.
I'm always a fan of. So this is gonna harken back to the dungeon building one. I'm a big fan of the classics of goblins specifically.
Yeah, I am okay with goblins, but I like kobolds better.
I just like I like the versatility.
Yeah, I do like the mob mentality, sentient, low level creatures.
Because it's really easy to populate a room with like 4 or 5 goblins, and then once that gets kind of stale, maybe you have like goblin hyena riders, or goblin rat riders, because I recently learned that
giant rats.
They like farm rats, like cattle. I didn't know that. But it gives you a sort of like diversity with it.
Yeah.
You ever see a small man on a rat charging at you in a dark cave?
Yeah. Or weasels.
Oh,
I think kobolds are the same, but they train giant weasels.
Oh god, that's terrifying, to be stuck in a corridor with a weasel riding lizard.
Well, because kobolds rely on hit and run tactics, so their dungeons will always be scattered with like these little tunnels that only they can get through. So they train weasels that are like long and thin, and they ride weasels through these tunnels, and they just whack you and they go back into the tunnel.
I think goblins are the same way. They have that sort of guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, well they have to. They're small, and you'll beat the shit out of them if you don't. if they don't.
Which do kobolds have that hierarchy like goblins do? Because I know goblins have like goblin boss, and then like goblin king / queen.
Well, goblins are chaotic evil, so generally goblins are only kept in line in their hierarchy because the most powerful person does that. As soon as the way that I've always understood it, a chaotic evil monster hierarchy only exists as long as the most powerful person is the most powerful person.
So once you take that out, it kind of dissolves.
Yeah, it'll be in chaos until somebody fills that void, until somebody beats up the rest of the goblins, and then he becomes the goblinoid. I've always liked the idea of a goblin tribe whose leader is always named the same thing. So the leader always has the same name no matter who it is. They dub him Greenbow Redcap or something. Every leader is always Greenbow Redcap. And
they don't even like give him like a second or third. There's always the original Greenbow.
It's always Greenbow. Yeah. But back to the topic though, kobolds are inherently lawful evil, so they keep their structure for its own sake.
Yeah.
They keep their hierarchy because it's what is expected of them, and they care about the survival of their tribe more than anything, and they're willing to make sure that they're in their place to do so.
See, I always figured they would be kind of like ants. So like
they basically.
You know how like when an ant queen dies, or not dies, but like when the kind of kingdom falls apart, the ants just kind of scatter and go find other colonies that have a queen, and they just assimilate.
Yeah, that could be a thing.
I feel like that's kind of what goblins do. I don't know. I would have to read up more on it. But while I'm thinking about it, I'd remembered a part of the encounter from last episode. I talked about the goblin boss that dug underneath the table to get away.
Yeah.
I remember I took a bit from, I can't remember what book I pulled it out of, but this goblin boss was much larger than the other ones. So what he would do is he would hang back from the party, and he would pick up the smaller goblins and chuck them at the party.
Goblin bombardment.
Yeah, just like he doesn't want to fight them, so he's just gonna chuck his underlings in there to fight for him.
I could see a bugbear doing the same thing in that scenario. Like that also adds to the versatility of goblins, is because there's so many goblinoid things. And you've got goblins, you got the goblin boss, hobgoblins, bugbears. Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
You could put together an entire hive.
You could put together an entire campaign just based around goblinoids.
Oh man, we could totally do like a Goblin Slayer
Yeah,
campaign.
yeah. And like the big bad at the end would be like a PC, because hobgoblins are a playable race, so you could stat out an entire NPC hobgoblin as the big bad, make him like level 10.
Say, didn't they introduce
Goblins and
players?
Bugbears are also playable characters.
Oh wow!
So
I remember
you could stat out the whole thing and keep it. You could, like, if you wanted to go this whole route, if you didn't want to keep like the basic ass goblins in there, you could start statting out goblins and bugbears and things to make it more challenging. Like the normal goblin's not enough for you, so you make a third level goblin rogue that has all those abilities too.
Which the goblins were introduced in Ravnica, right? The Ravnica pack?
Playable goblins were introduced in Volo's guide.
Were they?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just remember that they have one in the Ravnica set, but that's cool that they were introduced.
I didn't know they had one in the Ravnica set.
Yeah, the Ravnica set put in like that's where I got my Centaur character.
Yeah, I knew they put in Centaurs, Vidalcan, Simic hybrids.
Yeah, and I think they put Minotaurs in there too, which is cool. I'm surprised that D&D didn't have playable Minotaurs and Centaurs from the beginning.
Minotaurs were in Eberron with Warforged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I need to find a book sale and just pick up a whole bunch of those and catch up.
Yeah, I do like having the physical copies of the book. It's neat to have for the collection.
I mean, you just flip through them one day and kind of brush up with yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Which, kind of moving right along, what's your favorite sort of medium type monster? So let's say your characters are around level 5 to level 8 maybe.
Yeah.
The goblins aren't doing it anymore.
Yeah.
And you don't want to stat them up, so maybe get something a little more spicy to throw at them.
I haven't implemented it yet, but I've also gone on record as being a pretty big fan of Yuan-Ti. Yuan-Ti are kind of in that vein. They can fulfill from low to high level and in the middle. I think their hierarchy is interesting. And I've planned on using them for a while, but I haven't yet. So I like Yuan-Ti. Some mid-level undead would be like Wraiths. Wraiths are CR5.
Okay.
There's a pretty big jump in undead, actually. I think Wraith, it goes from 5 to like 12.
So isn't it like zombies are around CR 1/2 to 1?
I think zombies are either 1/2 or 1/4.
And then they put like poltergeists and like lesser
specters are CR1. Shadows are 1/2.
Oh, I forgot about shadows.
Shadows are cool. I like shadows. Ghosts are 4. Wraiths are 5. I think wights, which is basically just like armored up, sword wielding zombies, little smarter. I think they're CR3.
Okay, so there's a little bit for.
So yeah, you could build a decent encounter with a wraith and a few wights for a mid-level.
So I do know that I can't remember if ghosts have magical resistance.
They have resistance. They don't have like the keyword magic. Magic resistance, for mechanics' sake, is you have advantage on saves against magical, like spells and magical effects. Ghosts do resist a lot of the magical damage types.
It's really hard to bludgeon a ghost.
Yeah. Like they're resistant to non-magical bludgeoning damage. I'd make the argument that they would be immune to non-magical physical damage, but that's not the way it is.
Something being that low CR, it's very surprising that that's the way it is, especially since they can permanently affect your age.
Yeah,
if you fail a save,
their damage can permanently age you to the point of reasonable death.
Yeah, like if you're a human and you made like an older human, like in your 50s, and they roll because like it's a D8.
I think it's a D4. A D4 times 10.
D4 times 10.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a D4 times 10 years.
And like you age up 40 years, you just die.
Yeah. As a DM, I would say if you are 90 years old suddenly, you're probably dead.
Yeah, especially with. Have you seen Forgotten Realms healthcare? It's probably not good.
It's not good unless you're in a hyper-religious society that's like, oh no, our clerics can just take care of about everything.
Yeah, they can just heal you of age. No, it's
That is the caveat though. If you get I think it has to be greater restoration. If you get greater restoration within 24 hours, then your age reverts. But otherwise, it's permanent if you don't get it within the 24 hours.
See, they don't classify it as a curse.
I don't think it is classified as a curse.
So like remove curse doesn't.
It has to be. It has to be greater restoration.
Oh man, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Especially for like poltergeist being CR3.
Yeah, ghosts are CR4. Poltergeists are like a variant human of specters.
Oh, okay.
I think the only difference is they get some like telekinetic abilities.
They can throw stuff.
Yeah.
Now, when I go for kind of medium range creatures, like me and Devin were talking about this just before we started. I'm a huge fan of displacer beasts.
Yeah, I do like displacer beasts
because they're reasonably hard to hit. If they fail a saving throw, they take half damage anyway.
Yeah,
from like spells
from their displacement.
And they have multi-attack at a CR3.
Yep.
So you could reasonably, if you have a party, like a larger party of like 5 to 7 characters, 3 displacer beasts can reasonably contend.
Well, they can be annoying. I remember being an encounter of just displacer beasts when we were about level 6, I think, and it was tough.
Oh yeah,
it was tough to get through them,
and especially since their attacks do 2 different types of damage.
Yeah, I don't remember if they do poison damage or.
Their first attack does bludgeoning, and their second attack does slashing.
Okay, I didn't know if they did any like elemental damage.
Oh no. I actually ran a displacer beast last week, and so it's very fresh in my head because one of the party members had bought a potion. I can't remember if it was a potion or something. It made it so that they got half damage from slashing damage specifically.
Yeah.
And then when they were fighting the displacer beast, I was like, you'll take this much slashing and then this much bludgeoning. And they're like, wait, what? It's 2 types? It's like, yeah, the tentacle like smacks you with the blunt end and then hits you with the clawed end on its way back.
Yeah, its tentacles are gnarly.
And that's something that the first time I ran Displacer Beast, I didn't even realize because I just read right over it.
Yeah, well, usually it won't be a huge deal, but if you're implementing stuff like damage-specific resistances, then it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, which, and aside for future episodes, I want to talk about damage types and how underappreciated they are.
They're underappreciated because I feel like Wizards kind of dropped the ball on resistances and vulnerability. Like there are very few creatures in the monster manual that are vulnerable to anything. I think like skeletons are vulnerable to bludgeoning damage, of course.
You break your bones.
But I think ghosts are vulnerable to radiant damage.
See, I always thought that it might just be like the RPG guy in me, but I always thought that all undead took extra damage from fire.
Nope.
Yeah, and that's not a thing in D&D.
I don't think that a majority of the undead have any vulnerabilities.
Yeah, and that's crazy to me. It feels like in an RPG that should be.
I think the only
case.
I think the only major thing is that zombies don't get their undead fortitude ability if they're hit with radiant damage. Hydras do not get to regrow heads if they're hit with fire damage.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
because you kind of cauterize.
Well, that's mythology based.
A wound, yeah.
Yeah, that's how Hercules ended up killing the Hydra in the Greek myth. He sliced off its head and it kept regrowing. So he's like, all right, slices it off and cauterizes it with a torch.
And I feel like so for all the new game masters and dungeon masters out there, put stuff like that in your games, please.
Yeah, like don't adhere strictly to the monster manuals and stuff. Like I do random crap like that all the time. I actually me and a buddy of mine just finished up our battle simulator.
Yeah.
That we coded up in Python.
Yeah, you're talking about that a couple episodes back.
Yeah, I think so.
The true fans will remember.
We finished it up and we turned it in. We're gonna work a lot harder on it. We actually plan on coding it up and putting it up as a web app for everybody to use once it's actually all fleshed out and everything.
That's pretty cool.
because it's a little like coding jargon. It's object oriented, so you have like a whole section of traits for undead, and then the different undead pull the attributes from that.
Oh, okay.
So we had to put the damages, resistances, and immunities that all undead have in the undead section. So then we didn't have to recode it in all of the other specific undead.
So they just kind of pull from that table.
Yeah. So all undead, basically all undead, are immune to poison damage. I thought it fitting that all undead are vulnerable to radiant damage. If an undead takes radiant damage, it takes twice as much.
Yeah.
I put that in there because I think that's where I think that's how it should work.
And with the poison immunity, that's just like their blood doesn't move, right?
Yeah, they don't have blood.
Yeah, so it makes sense that poison wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, they can't. They're immune to poison, and they can't be poisoned. So,
I would like to see some sort of system. I realize this is probably a little weird to implement in your specific web app, but like for D&D specifically, I think it'd be really cool if you could dismember undead, and like that affects things.
Oh, like they take like they take penalties if you can like take their limbs apart or something.
Yeah, like maybe
they shamble around a little more.
Give your characters a skill check or something, like an acrobatics, or give them disadvantage for aiming for a specific joint.
Yeah, like if you're swinging a sword, you roll to attack. Okay, you hit. Roll an athletics to get like a specific point, lop off its arm or something.
Or the opposite could be true too. I don't know if you've ever played Resident Evil 4.
Nope.
But the zombies in that game, that's another like engineered zombie kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there are zombies in that game that I remember that if you blow off some of their heads, a large like tentacle beast will come out.
Oh.
And now you have to fight that.
Oh no.
So I feel like you could do something like that. Like, oh, there's one zombie in the pack that's maybe looking a little bloated. And it's like you kill it and like a giant undead centipede like bursts out and then.
Or you kill it and it explodes in like an acidic burst.
Yeah. Like really spice up your encounter.
Yeah. Just you can throw random stuff in there that you think is cool. Like I recently had a big dungeon where there was like I was actually pretty proud of this and I really loved it. There was like this fountain dedicated to a god that had been desecrated, and it was like fountaining out blood, and skeletons would just come out of the blood fountain until the fountain was destroyed.
Oh.
They were all minions. They only had one hit point, but they were basically just skeletons, but they had one hit point, and more skeletons just kept coming until the fountain was undesecrated or destroyed entirely.
So we're just gonna cork up this fountain.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing that, and that's
really cool.
That's what you'll have the most fun doing. Putting your own spin on things instead of just carbon copying them from the monster manual.
Which we're gonna go like way more in depth in the like encounter building and combat episode. But just like touching on it here, it's really common for DMs to pull stuff from other editions of D&D for their monsters.
I love pulling stuff from different editions.
Like
spice it up a little bit.
Like maybe a fire elemental having a 5-foot radius of like intense heat.
Yeah.
You know?
I had you were a part of this encounter too when you went to get that sword in the under the hill. There was like this door that led to like a subsection of the hells. There was like this armored demon sentinel with hellhounds.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
His hammer actually could spew fire. Like his hammer had spikes on the end and like the big bludgeoning end of the hammer, but the bludgeoning end could open up and it spewed like a dragon breath fire since he was a demon. Like he's fire oriented, so.
Say, is that something you lifted, or did you just like?
That's something.
I just want his hammer to shoot fire.
Well, I actually found the image of the monster on Pinterest, and it just looked like that would be really cool if the hammer could just do something, because it was a really unique looking hammer.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of got it from the first Thor movie, like the Sentinel that just like blasts a ray of stuff out of its head.
Oh yeah.
Like I guess I kind of pulled it from that. I suppose.
I don't know. I've never seen a boss with a weapon that changes. That's kind of unique.
Yeah, I liked it.
Say, I lifted something from, I believe it was the 3.5 Bog Witch. But I put it, so my characters were fighting a Night Witch. And the Night Witch is a being that steals beauty because she is horribly ugly.
Yeah, we got some like Disney aesthetic in here.
Yeah.
Dark Disney.
So she like really hates beautiful things. And so when like I took pieces of the Bog Witch and put it with the Night Witch, and then a little bit of the 3.5 witches, which have an aura of but this specific one is an aura of fear around them.
Yeah.
Like you get close and you're just like so horrified by this grotesque creature, you have to make a Constitution save or be frightened.
I think that auras are very underused. I think that really powerful enemies, bosses in particular, should have specific auras. Like, I don't remember if dragons actually have them or not.
They don't in 5th edition.
Yeah, I don't think they did in 5th edition, but usually dragons have like an aura of fear where it's like they're just, of course, they're a dragon. You're going to be scared to approach it.
Actually, I think... Okay, that's what I would think of. In 5th edition, they have the frightful presence thing.
Yeah.
Because so do like the higher up, like pit demons.
Yeah. Have
an aura of fear, I believe. But yeah, the dragons I believe have frightful presence. I was thinking of like
I think it might be an action that they can take.
Like I thought you were talking about like red dragons having like that aura of heat, and I remember I think that was a 4th edition thing.
Because I'm looking at it right now. Frightful presence for dragons is an action that they have to take. It's not an aura.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have to take an action to use their frightful presence.
I don't know. That's iffy to me.
I'd much rather them have that as an aura.
Like, can you just like turn off being scary?
No. Unless you're a doppelganger.
Like, man, wish I could just turn off being ugly.
Which is funny because changelings are also a playable race that have the ability to shed their normal facade, and underneath they're very ugly. So like once per day you can just be like, oh, I'm a normal person. Shoot, nope. Everybody make a wisdom check or be scared of me.
Which that's it's really funny you brought up doppelganger. I actually had a changeling in one of my campaigns, and
I think they're fun.
They're really interesting, and I told them about the actor feat, how it like busts changelings wide open.
Yeah, actor's pretty good for a changeling.
And like long story short, they didn't enjoy playing a changeling. They thought it was kind of
it's niche.
Hokey.
It's niche. So it's a niche thing.
Went on to something new, but that was the first time I'd ever had someone like. And honestly, when they approached me and was like, I want to play a changeling, in my personal being, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And like my inside DM was just screaming.
Yeah.
Because I know this is going to be awful.
It's going to be rough for you. I made a, kind of like on a character creation topic, but like we're on the topic of monsters and it's a monstrous race. But I made a changeling once.
I'll allow it.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I made a changeling character, I think I can't remember their class. I never actually got to play them. I just made him one time, but it has multiple personality disorder.
Oh.
And it doesn't actually know that it's a changeling.
Oh, that's cool.
It doesn't know that it's a changeling, and it changes its when its personality shifts, its form shifts. Like I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's really cool. Wasn't there like there was a movie that came out recently about a villain that had multiple personalities, and like one of the personalities was homicidal, but the other ones were fairly normal.
Oh, Split?
Yeah.
With James McAvoy?
Yeah.
I love James McAvoy.
I haven't seen that movie yet.
He's such a good actor. He nails it. I definitely recommend that movie.
Oh man.
It's so good.
Well, now I have to.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway,
that
was a big topic, but I liked it. I like that discussion. The next thing I want to talk about is pet monsters.
Yeah.
So we all flip through the monster manual, and we see something that's just really cool.
Yeah.
And we kind of latch on to it. Just with that one specific monster, like, I don't know when I'm going to use this.
It's like, even if it's not like an optimal or like a really good choice, it's just kind of like, I always want to use these. So what's yours? I am a huge fan of
like devils specifically.
Devils are so fun.
And I usually make an effort to include horned devils.
Yeah, they're so classic.
Yeah, like you just have your part. I usually introduce them to a very low level party to like spook them.
Yeah, get the fear in there.
But like they just complete a dungeon and like a hole opens up in the ground and like you hear the screams of the damned and this horned devil comes up and I was like, why are you here? And then they're all scared because like, well, we're dead. Yeah.
That's the point where one of your players leans over to a fellow player like, so what's your next character going to be?
Yeah, I always like that and imps. I love putting imps.
Imps are fun.
Just a dick with the party.
When I make a warlock, I always have to stop myself if it doesn't fit the character to, like, I have to stop myself from picking the chain just so that I can have a pet imp. Because I think imps are fun.
Just make an effort to find a ring of familiar.
Like, yeah.
I want an imp.
And that can be really fun for a DM to like run the imp, or you as a player can run the imp. It's up to the DM, but it's always kind of fun to have that the literal devil on your shoulder.
Yeah, and like there's just the devils are just there's so many of them.
There's so many, and they're all, in my opinion, very interesting.
Yeah, there's one for literally every situation.
Yeah.
Like there's like that encapsulates like succubi. They're demons. Or not demons, they're devils. Sorry.
In 5th edition,
actually, are they? Hold on.
They're in there. They're not in the devil or demon. They're their own thing. They're classified as fiends, but they are neither devils nor demons. They're considered neutral evil, I believe.
Oh, you're right. Medium fiend, shape changer, neutral evil.
Yep, they're kind of under their own agency, which I kind of like about them.
Well, color me surprised.
Rakshasa are the same way. The tiger demons.
Yeah.
I can't even call them demons. They're actually lawful evil, but they are also not under the subsection of demons and devils.
Say they're not your like classical Western demons.
No, they're based on Indian mythology.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool, I guess. But it I don't know. My classical RPG-ness is just like, suck you boy or demons.
Pick one or the other. It just popped into my head, but I have learned through some extensive research on devils that I think you might be interested in. Since you brought up horned devils, because of the way the devil hierarchy works, are the laziest of all demons, of all devils. Of all the devils, horned devils are the laziest because they're right at that stepping stone of hierarchy level. Like, things aspire to be horned devils to go higher.
Yeah.
So horned devils don't have much incentive to go because they're at the bottom of their level and they're just above the level below them.
So they can just kind of like talk shit on the level under them.
They can talk shit on the level under them, but most of them don't want to put in the effort to go any higher. I thought it was pretty interesting.
That's funny.
They're all game to follow orders and give orders, but like they'll take orders begrudgingly.
God, we can't get to the 9 Hells episode fast enough.
I have a lot of fun, and I've watched so many.
There's such a fun topic.
There's so many videos on the 9 Hells, and I've researched so much on them. It's just so interesting to me.
Yeah. It's what? It's all based off of Dante's Inferno, like 9 circles.
Loosely.
Yeah, very loosely. Just
every
to
level,
avoid copyright.
Every level of the 9 Hells has its theme and its own sadistic archduke. And it doesn't really follow a pattern per se. I think the only thing that follows the Dante's Inferno pattern really is that the lowest 2 levels are... Actually, no. The lowest of the 9 Hells is like a chasm. It's like an endless chasm. But the level right above it, where Mephistopheles is the Archduke, is an icy wasteland.
Okay, so that's just like Dante's Inferno then.
Yeah, it's close.
And then they slap Asmodeus in the bottom of the...
Asmodeus.
The bottom of the massive hole and
shout out to
Asmo. My boy
Asmo.
Now I love just... there's just so much there, and like each circle
It's
and
so
their boss.
Yeah, it's so intriguing because like you could throw them in anywhere to fuck with anything.
Yeah, and like the arch demons of each circle can just mosey out.
Yeah.
And visit the mortal plane.
Or like send some kind of like astral projection of themselves.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much that you can do with them, and they don't even have to be your big bad.
Exactly.
Like anybody who like watches Supernatural at all, like Crowley sometimes is the big bad, but often he's just there to facilitate his own ends and screws with some stuff.
Yeah.
But I've always found him very interesting, and
they're all like, well, mostly all devils are like lawful evil types.
they are all lawful evil. They have to be.
They are all lawful
Because
evil?
of the lore, they have to be.
See, they're mostly all for deals, right?
They are magically. Every devil is magically compelled to be lawful evil.
Okay.
Yeah, because of something Asmo's done.
So they're all here to literally have mortals make deals with them,
and they have to respect those, because if they don't, who's gonna deal with them?
Yeah, exactly. And then like the flip side of that is like the Abyss.
Yeah, the Abyss and demons. There's absolutely no holds bars with them.
Yeah, it's all chaotic evil.
They are just here to fuck shit up.
They will rip each other apart.
Yeah, they all hate each other. Like all of the archdukes hate each other, but they'll work with each other. If there are two demon lords in any kind of close vicinity to each other, wherever they are is 100% destroyed, no question.
Oh no.
Like wherever they meet will be obliterated.
Oh, that's God, now I just want to like write. I want to make campaigns around this stuff.
I have always felt like talking about and thinking about monsters gets me in the mood to like write encounters and write story plots and all kinds of stuff. Like I think it's in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, they really go into like the devil and demon rivalry. But it also goes into a little bit of when a demon attempts to breach into the mortal plane, because I think devils have an easier time getting to the mortal plane than demons do. But if a demon is able to breach the mortal plane, all they do is so much discord and chaos that like the hole that they've come through just gets bigger and bigger until the demon lord actually comes out, and there's just no hope for that area.
Oh no.
Absolutely no hope for that area. The demon lord comes through and just wrecks everything.
I need to do more research on the Abyss before I really talk about it. All I know about the Abyss is like the circles are infinite, and the deeper you go, the bigger physically the demons get. Like they just get massive and much more terrifying the deeper you go.
And at the very center of it all is Tharizdun.
Tharizdun.
Yeah, Tharizdun is the god of the demons. He created the Abyss.
What a name.
Yeah, it's rough. Tharizdun is basically Satan. He's like chained up at the very heart of the Abyss.
Okay.
Next to the heart of the heart of chaos, which is what turned Asmo into a devil.
Huh. See, I don't know.
Lore dump.
I don't know how much. Cause I know that they released Into the Abyss.
Yeah.
As like an adventure module. I think that's a higher level module. It's like level 11 to 17.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I haven't played it. I haven't really looked into it.
See, I haven't heard.
I know that
good
they have.
Or bad.
I know they have all the demon lords statted out, which I honestly think is kind of a mistake. If you give something stats that you can kill it.
Yeah.
That's why they like purposefully haven't given like any of the archdukes stat blocks.
It's like I don't think gods of planes should have stat blocks.
No, especially when it's canon that if you kill a demon lord, you inherit their power.
Yeah. We don't want Boblin the Goblin inheriting the power of the Abyss.
Yeah, Boblin the Goblin does not need to have the power of Orcus, the demon lord of undeath.
So going off of well, we didn't talk about your pet monsters. We spent all that time talking about.
Well, I got into
devils.
I got into some of my pet monsters too. I have a tendency to lore dump if I have the opportunity. My pet monsters range from a lot of things. I love kobolds. I love Yuan-ti. I think I don't really have any pet monsters specifically, but reptilian monsters and undead monsters are close to are close to my DMing heart.
So like, do you put dragons in there, or dragons are sort of their own?
I put
beast?
Dragons in there. Dragons are one of my favorite creatures.
Oh, okay.
There's actually I can't say too much, but there's some pretty heavy stuff involving at least 2 dragons that you know of in my campaign.
Yeah.
One of them literally, a black dragon, leveled an entire city.
Yeah. See, we've seen in Devin's campaign, exactly 2.
Yep. In my campaign, dragons are all like basically extinct. The only dragons that are said to be alive are like the most powerful ones, but nobody's seen them in like thousands of years.
Yeah.
You've seen 2.
That is way more than we thought we would see.
And both of them have guarded both of them are guarding their a respective elemental source of magic. Like the red dragon is guarding like it's a gem crystal kind of thing, but it is the shard of fire magic.
Okay.
Like the god of magic placed it on the earth, and every time fire magic is used, it funnels magic from that.
So they're kind of like they're guarding their own ley lines.
They're basically physical representations of ley lines.
Oh, that's really cool, actually.
Yeah,
I like that.
Little bit, but like the black dragon wields the acid, the acid gem, and it empowers them. Like they're not normal dragons.
So I was gonna say this at the beginning of the episode, but I thought it was way too corny. In the description for the dungeon episode, I used the sentence, "We're putting the dungeons in Dungeons and Dragons with this."
Well, I just put the dragons in there for you.
And now we're putting the dragons in Dungeons and Dragons.
There you go.
We've come full circle.
Series complete. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Well, actually kind of close. We have a couple more topics here for this one. I don't want to go too heavy with this. We can always do like a part 2 or whatever on just like specific monsters.
Well, like there's so many monsters and there's so much to talk about. We could make entire episodes of just specific monsters.
Which we just might.
I did want to mention one last thing while we're on pet monsters. I've always wanted to, but never have used the slad.
Slad?
Yeah. They're like these monstrous frog things that are turn to them.
Say SL.
Yeah, SL. They're super weird. They're chaotic evil. They're spawned from the elemental chaos.
Say for people listening at home, I have a physical monster manual like in front of me.
Yeah, they're just these grotesque frog-esque monsters. Those. And
those are freaky.
They all like specialize in different things, and they have a bunch of different challenge ratings. There's like shamans, there's brutes, there's like roguey characters.
Are they like elemental?
Yeah, I can't remember if they're monstrosities or elementals, but
let's check their stat block. They are aberrations.
I was gonna say aberrations.
Ooh, they're large too.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
I think the gray slad is medium. He's like the rogue.
Yep, the gray is medium. The rest are.
There's a black one. Like the most powerful one is like a death slad.
Yep, death slad. Challenge rating 10.
Yeah, they're beefy. I've always liked it because they're kind of. I like the alien movies and like the Predator movies. Slad reproduce by implanting embryos in people, and then they hatch from their chest.
Oh, like little tadpole chest bursters?
There's slad tadpoles that
oh, there is.
Yeah, that burst from people when they're ready to be born, and they emerge into fully formed slads. I've always liked them a lot, and I wanted to use them, but I never have.
That's really cool. I actually just recently replayed the Resident Evil 2 remake, and in that one of the bad guys gets implanted by one of the other bad guys with an embryo for this sort of infected life form that if your body is strong enough to accept it, you become
cool.
This giant monstrosity. But if your body is weak, it rejects it and bursts out of you and you die.
I can't, because I'm not a huge fan of mind flayers exactly, but I think they do something similar.
Yeah, they do the like brain probe.
Yeah, they
thing.
put like the brain probe in you, and you like turn into a mind flayer. I think.
You'll take on the form of a mind flayer, and you'll just assimilate into one of them.
I think mind flayers are neat, but I've never been a huge fan.
See, I really like Eldritch horror, like the space horror,
Lovecraftian stuff.
Yeah, that kind of stuff just scratches an itch for me.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
That sort of things that are so terrifying your brain can't comprehend what they are, so you just kind of explode.
The great old ones.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. Just I don't know, man. It's really cool.
It tickles you.
Yeah, it's fun to read about. It's really hard to implement.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Very hard to implement.
But mind flayers, they have such a huge lore background.
They do, and they have such an association with the game.
Wizards really likes making.
Well, hell, Stranger Things makes references to them, even though they're not correct. But
do they really?
Yeah.
So I haven't watched Stranger Things.
I haven't either, but I know that they make D&D references, and
So I knew that. I knew
not to really bash the show, but it's a stretch. They talk about mind flayers, and like the main creature they call a mind flayer, but like they call some of its like minions a demigorgon.
Mm-hmm.
Demigorgon is the strongest demon lord in the game.
Yeah.
So you're doing some disrespect. You're just doing some disrespect to my boy.
They can't be 100% accurate.
Yes, they can.
It's like
there's no reason not to.
It's like when you specifically demigorgons. Like D&D has such a weird thing about gorgons. Like,
well, demigorgon is not the same as a gorgon.
Yeah, but like even gorgons aren't the same as gorgons.
No. They're actually called Medusa in D&D.
Yeah, and that's weird.
The species is called Medusas.
Like
Gorgons are like metal bull things.
Yeah, when you play Magic the Gathering, the other wizards own property. They'll reference Gorgons. They'll make cards with Gorgons, and they're your very Medusa snake people.
Which is actually correct. The monster is actually called a Gorgon, and that is one thing that has always bothered me.
Yeah.
The monster is called a Gorgon. The snake hair, petrify you is a Gorgon.
Which I think I looked it up one time, and like in the first edition Monster Manual, when they were making Gorgons, it's like an ancient Greek, or not Greek, it's
Greek.
Oh, like is it the snake-haired Gorgons are Greek, or the bull?
The snake-haired Greek. I know at least the snake-haired Gorgons are Greek. That's where Medusa comes from.
But there's some sort of ancient mythology that refers to, I think it's African mythology.
I wouldn't know.
That refers to these metallic bulls as Gorgons, and that's what Gary Gygax was like. Gorgon, put it in the manual.
Damn it, Gary.
And it's like, well, what do we do with Medusas? And like, call them Medusas.
That's
like, okay.
Dumb.
Like that's what the internet told me.
I guess.
All right, so last thing. Oh, we're already at the end already. I want to talk about game-breaking monsters.
Tarask.
Well, yeah. They literally break the world.
There he is. It's your boy.
I'm talking about monsters that, like, when you put them into your encounters, they have the ability to just break the rest of the game for the foreseeable future. And I did put Tarask in my notes because a lot of...
I hit it for you.
A lot of, like, newer Dungeon Masters will be like, oh, yes, Tarask, the big boy, put him in.
Never should you come across to the point unless you're desperate to challenge your players. The Tarask is kind of the... all hope is lost. Nobody's having fun.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's being challenged. I shouldn't say nobody's having fun. If your party is so high of a level that they're just killing everything that you put at them, you throw a Tarask in to really screw them over.
Yeah, because Tarasks have, like...
Tarask is the emergency button.
They have resistance to everything.
Everything except acid.
Oh, there you go. Start spilling acid.
Yeah, they regenerate. They're huge. They do a shit ton of damage.
They have like 6 stomachs and they can ingest you.
Yeah, they can just eat you.
Yeah, they're absolutely like Jesus Christ massive.
They're meant to be game breaking.
Yeah. But the other one I put in my notes was doppelgangers.
Doppelgangers are weird.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call them game breaking, but I think it can add a lot of intrigue. Why would you say it's game breaking?
Well, doppelgangers. Let me just flip to their little spot in the monster manual. No, not dragon turtle. We don't need dragon turtles.
Dragon turtles are cool too.
No. Anyway, so they're relatively low challenge rating.
Yes.
I think they're like 2 or 3.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
But they're like way lower than I think they should be. Their whole shtick is that they assume the form of another living creature, and then they kill it. They kill the creature and take their place.
Not necessarily, because this came up recently. Doppelgangers. We had a big debate on whether doppelgangers were actually evil or not in a recent session. They are not evil. They kidnap people. They'll kidnap people and they'll like probe their mind for thoughts, but they're not inherently evil, and they don't kill their victims usually. Yeah.
So they.
But they need the person that they're imitating to put on the facade.
Yeah.
I think it's just because they're so low a challenge rating because they're not powerful. They have a low AC. Their damage doesn't do very much. It's more of an RP and intrigue monster.
So I was mainly looking at like their challenge rating 3. They come with multi-attack, which is they're one of the lower CR creatures to have multi-attack.
Yeah, well, they only do an average of 7 damage.
And they have innate. They can just read your thoughts.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that like if your party isn't prepared,
yeah,
it will majorly mess them up.
Yeah, it can be rough.
Especially if they can get a party member down and assume their form.
Yeah. And
then suddenly you have a doppelganger.
Everybody put a red X on their forehead so we know who's who.
And it's like one of the modules that I'm actually be running tonight. So this isn't going up tonight. So my party, if you're listening,
you don't know nothing.
You don't know yet. But there's a doppelganger in this
dope
one shot, and they put the person who wrote the one shot in parentheses underneath the doppelganger said optional. Only use this if your party isn't being challenged enough or you feel they can handle it.
I think that they're appropriately challenging, but not in a traditional sense.
Yeah.
They're challenging because it's a curveball. It's something that if you're not prepared for, like you said, can really screw with your players. That's it, really. I wouldn't really consider them breaking or game breaking in any way, but they are a good change of pace. I feel from the rough and tumble, beat the crap out of these goblins to the I don't even know who this is, and I think one of their biggest abilities is their ability to escape.
Yeah,
they can become recurring enemies because they are so good at escaping. If you're using them right,
it's a mental game,
yeah,
for sure. Instead of a, like you said, roll dice hit thing.
Yeah,
game. They
run into a crowd, and you lost them. Like there's no way.
Say when did they say that they change shapes? Is it as an action? I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, can use this action to polymorph into a smaller medium humanoid as seen.
Yeah.
So literally 6 seconds.
Yeah. So it runs off into the crowd, and in less than 6 seconds, it becomes anyone else.
Yeah, it's in my DMing brain, that is for a CR3 is really pushing it. No other creature at this level I think is as terrifying for myself to implement than a doppelganger.
It's a lot of micromanaging to do. I think it's a lot to take care of on the DM's part, as opposed to just the same way it is for the players, where it's like roll up and hit the things until the things don't have health anymore.
Like you have to manage like what they are, what thoughts they're reading.
You have to keep in mind what they know. You have to keep in mind. You have to have a mind for this creature will not fight to the death.
Yeah.
It will try to escape. Probably when it gets to half health, you should have it run away.
Yeah, and like God help you if it assumes the form of a party member, and the party members don't know.
This is what I think is kind of funny about them is I was referencing the Rick and Morty thing where it's like they put the red X on their forehead to make sure it's like we can tell each other apart.
Yeah.
But what's funny about the doppelgangers is it'd be able to copy that.
Yeah.
It's already seen you with that red X, so it's just like, okay, yep, I've got a red X too.
6 seconds, that's it.
Yeah, and then it reads your mind, and it can be doing that while like the big standoff where it's like, oh, I don't know who to kill. It could be either one of them, and they're like trying to convince you. That one is reading your thoughts at the same time.
Yeah, it has perfect knowledge.
It has perfect knowledge to answer any question. So yeah, that's rough, but
yeah, it's so. Like, what do you think? Is there any kind of smaller time monster that you hesitate putting in to encounters?
Ghosts are rough.
For ghosts?
Ghosts are rough because they can literally save or suck kill you.
Oh no.
I think that the possession is rough too. You've essentially you've instantaneously taken away one of the numbers on your party side, and I guess you've net nothing on your side because the ghost is controlling them, but you've taken away one of their players immediately, and the enemies are now working harder against you.
Which especially for
if a ghost gets at your barbarian,
yeah,
that's gonna be rough.
Like mind control in itself, like the suggestion or dominate person, is always backbreaking to a party.
Yeah,
because they'll generally go for the party member who has the highest DPS.
Yeah, it's like it's always going to be situational, but usually, if the ghost is going, if the mind controller is going to go about it tactically, I think that they should always go for the tank, because once the tank is gone,
yeah,
everybody else is squishy.
Well, they usually have like low wisdom, right?
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is a lot of times when people make big smashy tank characters, the wisdom's the dump stat.
The charisma, the intelligence, the wisdom is usually a little lower.
Yeah, like you don't really need those. It's much easier to have a barbarian fail their wisdom save than to get the wizard to fail their wisdom save.
Yeah, and then your barbarian just goes and wails on the wizard, and then you lose.
Yeah, so I can totally see how ghosts are.
Anything that can take party members away to add to their own forces is rough.
Which it's really kind of sketching me out because, like I mentioned with this one shot, I think it's the third encounter of it's like a mansion, like a haunted mansion kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
The third encounter is with poltergeists.
Well, poltergeists don't possess.
So both.
I don't think.
I can't remember if there's like I know there's a couple poltergeists. I can't remember if there's a ghost, but
I was like ghosts are the big one. I actually can't remember if poltergeists can possess or not.
Say while he's looking at that, I'll kind of read this. The module I'm running, by the way, is called the Mad Manor of Astabar, which is it's a module from 2nd edition that's been adapted by a member of the community for 5th edition, which it was adapted by David Dudka. So, shout out to him because I absolutely love this one shot. I've run it for I think 3 different adventuring parties as a Halloween kind of episode, and they've all loved it. It's got great puzzles, and for this one specifically, I handmade props.
That's cool. Yeah.
So like pieces of the puzzles in here, there's a skull puzzle where each skull has a moon phase on it. You have to put them in the right order.
I think you were telling us about that in a earlier episode.
So I went and bought tiny plastic skulls and put moon phases on them. I hope they enjoy it.
I'm sure they will.
It's
That's
been
cool.
super fun to put this all together.
Props always add a lot.
And you can always just run it as a one-shot in the middle of the year. It doesn't have to be Halloween.
Yeah. Fun fact, poltergeists do not possess. They do get like a telekinetic thrust ability where like they can grab any medium-sized thing within 30 feet and just like throw it at you.
Yeah, and is that like an unarmed strike? Would that just do 1 damage, or does it have damage calc?
It does damage.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a 2d4 damage.
Oh, yeah, that's not bad.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, especially for like what their challenge rating is.
Yeah, their challenge rating too.
Yeah, but if I remember right, there's 2 poltergeists and 1 ghost.
Yeah, the ghost will be rough. And
I am absolutely terrified.
I'm sure it'll be okay as long as not everybody's rolling terribly.
Yeah, which there's 7 of them. It's
there was I can't remember if everybody was there that night. There was 4 or 5 of us. We were fighting a vampire. We're level 4, and we were fighting like an actual vampire. It wasn't like fully fledged. It didn't have like its legendary actions or anything, but it was rolling hot. Like our DM was rolling hot.
Yeah.
And we were rolling really terribly, and we all almost died until we had an NPC that we had been dealing with was a paladin. He came in and started. He didn't even really wreck house. He was just there to soak up attacks while the rest of us ended up killing the vampire.
Stop, monster! You don't belong in this world.
Ambrose, the senile paladin.
Oh no!
He was like 60.
Not exactly Victor Belmont.
No. That was Ambrose, the 60-year-old senile paladin that was chasing around an old lady earlier.
Oh man! So I think that's where we're gonna call it for this episode. It's been
eventful.
It's been a good one. I really like talking about monsters.
I could talk about monsters all damn day.
Which we just might.
We'll start getting into these episodes where we'll just talk about monster types.
Yeah. So this has been Area of Expertise. If you would like to follow more about the podcast, you can follow myself on Twitter at itsbutlet. That's ITSBUTTLET. We're also on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and soon to be Apple Music. So new Apple users, watch out for the future. You can also find us on anchor.fm/AoE-DND. That is where you can find all of our episodes completely uncut. Devin, is there anything that you would like to plug as we go out here?
No, go forth and make your games great, DMs and players.
All right. Oh, we'll see you next week.
Later.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed our show, you can support us by leaving a rating on Area of Expertise. If you are listening on YouTube, a like or subscription is a great way to let us know you want more. This has been AoE, and we'll see you in the next one.